Hello and welcome to NC Insights and Innovators, the voices shaping North Carolina's economic landscape. I'm your host, Yvonne Morrison of MVP Video and Promotions. And with us today is Trip Durham. Trip is the founder and decision maker of 2D Consulting, a company focused on improving the collegiate athletics experience for administrators, athletes, and fans. Athletics have been a central part of Trip's life since high school and have included roles as public address announcer, event planner, and marketing campaign creator. Trip served as the president of the National Association of Collegiate Marketing Administrators, and he was the executive director of the NC Sports Hall of Fame. Duke fans have become very familiar with Trip's voice since he became the public address announcer for Duke football and basketball in 2010. Trip, welcome.
How you doing?
We appreciate you being here.
I'm just thrilled to be here.
I'm good and hope you are.
Yes.
And I like the little pink stitching on your lapel here.
Thank you.
That looks great.
It's my first ever bespoke suit, and I tried to add a little bit of color.
You're
where I
rocking
could.
it.
Thank
And
you.
I tell Ken, my husband, you need to wear pink. He's not there, so maybe.
We'll get him there.
That's right. You need to help him out.
Absolutely.
So, your involvement with collegiate sports has been many years. So I would like to ask you, what impact has college sports traditionally had on North Carolina's economy?
Well, I think about it in really more than just the college athletics bucket as well, because this state almost has an embarrassment of sports riches. We have over 40 NCAA and NAIA institutions,
Wow.
all offering sports of some type. So that's over 44-year institutions. We have a plethora of professional sports in this state. We obviously have stock car racing. We've got golf that comes and goes. And we have so much going on. So I think the impact of all sport, with college sport being an anchor in there, can be probably looked at financially. From a community standpoint, obviously employment opportunities. There are so many places where college sports and pro sports sort of marry up in this state.
So in thinking about all of those factors, which ones have affected and impacted our state the most in recent years?
Well, you could probably break that out into two buckets. One would be financial. We can use examples. The ACC tournament, basketball tournament, is projected. Yes, it's projected from time to time at $20 million plus. You have PGA Tour stops that come in, real big ones, US Open, PGA Tournament, they're projected to bring in $100 million plus.
Wow.
And then in 2029, we've got the World University Games coming to the Triangle and to the Triad. And those projections are over $300 million in revenue.
Oh, wow.
So when a college campus hosts 90 different events a year, from soccer to basketball, when you have minor league baseball clubs that have 70 home games, the NHL, the NBA, the NFL, when you think about the calendar during the course of the year, there's not only the financial impact, but then in bucket number two, it truly is that community impact.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the gathering, right? Going into the 25-26 academic year, we have one less four-year institution because St. Andrews down in the Sandhills will not be operational.
That's a shame, big equestrian school.
Yeah, and so what does that do for that community? Granted, it's not our state, but in South Carolina, Limestone College closing down. And with Limestone closing down, what does that do for Gaffney, South Carolina, in that community? So financial, certainly one big piece. And then from a societal standpoint, what is it that draws people together?
Sports is a huge part of that.
It is.
Friends and family go together.
Yeah, what you have is you've got these people that were visionaries to stand these things up. And then you've got leaders to help activate these. And then down the line, you have administrators of all types, from Elizabeth City all the way to Cullowhee and down to Charlotte. You've got people that actually activate, which, again, generational really helps what we do.
Yeah, it really does. So explain to us, what is the GamePlan 2035 University Cohort Initiative and what are its goals?
Okay, so I appreciate you asking. So part of that generational I speak of, we've had decades of people taking an idea, taking a fan base and moving it down the line. It's a baton pass. Where I'm concerned is that in 2035, it's clocked. We have this generational shift getting ready to occur. That in 2035, we'll have more 65-year-olds in this country than 18-year-olds. North Carolina obviously is part of that equation. In 2006, 07, 08, people stopped having children. And through the financial and through the pandemic, you have all of these challenges that have stacked up. So in 2035, what happens to our fan base? So imagine right now there's an 18-year-old who is just gaming or gaming with the headphone, not leaving the house. And family is not encouraging Michael or Joni to leave the house.
And they're not going to these events
They're not going to these events, right? So they're not building their own habits.
Right.
Now imagine the 55-year-old today who is going to experience one of the greatest generational shifts in wealth that this country's ever experienced. So that person, when they're 65, are they going to want to play more golf? Are they going to want to travel more? Do they want to sit out in the sun for 4 hours to watch a college football game? So the cohort for GamePlan 2035 is about bringing colleges together, administrators together to talk about what is the impending problem that's coming. So once we get through the pay for play with college athletes and through those implementations, once we get through name, image, likeness, and how that actually works within the college system, the next big thing is discussing who's coming to our events based on the generational shift.
So we suspect that the older generation will attend fewer events and the younger generation will attend fewer events. So how do you get them out?
Right. So as we think about that idea of down the line, concessions are down the line, merchandise down the line, ticket sales certainly front door to get into the gate.
Right.
But revenue streams are so important inside college athletics and minor league baseball and almost pick a sport. But college athletics especially, we don't want to open up the gates in 2035 and look around and wonder who's coming.
No one's there, yeah.
But it is such a futuristic thought because as we sit here today, that's 10 years from now. And there are athletic administrators that can't see past next Tuesday, much less 10 years from now. But the conversation has to start, and hopefully with the cohort within GamePlan 2035, we can start that conversation.
Yeah, very important. We know that major universities like Duke, UNC, and NC State have the biggest stake in this challenge. How much influence will smaller universities and colleges have?
My guess is nationwide, if we think about the term Power Four, and those are the conferences of the ACC, Big Ten, Big 12, and the SEC, chances are those 64 schools or so, they're going to be okay through that generational shift because of the culture that's there and because the maddening following that they have for all of their sports. But it will be the Belmont Abbeys, it will be the Elons, it'll be schools like that that really need to take a hard look at how it is they are going to move through this transition of demographics because eyeballs are tough to grab, butts in seats are hard to accomplish. If you think about any given Saturday in college athletics in the state of North Carolina, we could pick 10 schools that are trying to fill upwards to 270,000 seats in their stadium any given week.
Wow.
Because if they're all at home, then I've got to try to get you, and you might be going over here, but I also have a golf lesson I want to get to, and my kids have piano recital on Saturday. Mm-hmm. So the competition becomes tougher, and with the demographic shift that's coming, it'll be even harder.
So what types of things can these smaller schools do?
A lot of it is have conversation, and it's having a structured conversation that gets them to action items. Belmont Abbey will stay on that school south of Charlotte. They have a different environmental scope. Their ethos, right, their campus is much different than North Carolina A&T State University. So they each have their own assets. They each have their own liabilities, whether it's physical, whether it's fan base. So we need to get together and discuss what is possible. You and I could have a water cooler conversation today and say, what about this, what about that? But it may not fit their campus. And it's not necessarily that it's just North Carolina A&T having conversation within their campus. It could be that NC A&T State is having conversation with North Carolina Central, with Elizabeth City State. So maybe it's HBCUs that come together in the cohort and they're discussing it. Could it be a Division II conversation in which Wingate, Lenore Ryan, Belmont Abbey all of those schools that are inside Division II, maybe they're having the conversation because their fans really aren't going to be with the affinity for other campuses.
Right.
But they all are in the same boat because it is a smaller institution hit within a major market.
So is modernizing their stadiums and their facilities a big part of that?
Absolutely could be a part of it. A lot of it can be brick and mortar. Some of it can be operational. Imagine if you are 70 years old and all you want is a bottle of water and maybe a bag of peanuts. Mm-hmm. Is there a possibility, and again, this is the water cooler conversation, is there a possibility that there's a stand right over there that says 70-year-olds and up, right? Mm-hmm. Peanuts and water. Mm-hmm. So there are things operationally that could happen, but it takes those leaders, those visionaries to get together and have these conversations.
And if they begin that process, how do they maintain those traditions and rituals that alumni and the students are used to having,
right,
while attracting the demographics, the older folks?
Totally agree. And that's a great question because you do have either through music or timing or tailgates, whatever it may be for a particular sport, that's just baked into who we are. But we can't get away from that in order to try to do something different. To your point, how does it all play? Well, again, it's going to come down to the people on campus going, we feel it every week, we feel it every day. What about this? Okay, well, let's take that idea and massage it a little bit. We can't throw darts at it just sitting in these two chairs, although I'm sure we'd be pretty good at it. Yeah. It's not for you and I to try to figure out what's the right way to do it.
As you're talking to these universities, these administrators, are they open? I mean, do they realize what's getting ready to happen? Do they understand that there's going to have to be some pretty major changes?
I think it's a good question because I'm sure there are one or two of them that are looking that far. The admissions enrollment cliff, which we've been sliding down for the last couple of years and will truly drop off soon. Those recruitment managers, those provost and VP for admissions, they're thinking about aspects of it. But I don't know how detailed they're thinking about it when it comes to their actual brick and mortar venues and stadiums. How much are they thinking about a Tuesday night at 7 o'clock in 2035 in which we've got more 65-year-olds and 18-year-olds, and who is lining the fence of our soccer pitch watching? And that is it's a conversation which somebody told me that if we're not thinking about it now, then in 2035, the frog is going to be boiling, and it's going to be too late to hop out of the pot. Right now, frog is feeling a little lukewarm, knows that something's going on, but really needs to address it.
Have you seen institutions already implementing some strategies that have worked well for these changes that are coming? Like, are there some that are forward thinking in that way?
In thinking about new revenue streams, a gentleman that used to be at Wake Forest University, he's now the athletic director at Arkansas. Moving forward, they are going to have a Razorback raffle for just about every game. And what it amounts to is a 50-50 split. And it's much like what the Jimmy Fund has been at Fenway Park over the years, is that for every game, you'll have a chance to buy into a raffle, and half of that money will go to the athletic department, and then half of it will go into the pocket of the person that wins the raffle. So there are administrators that are thinking as far outside the box as they can in the environment today by which they're just trying to get to next week. Somebody described it to me as that every week I've got a monster I've got to slay.
Oh, gosh,
and if you're doing that week to week, it's really hard to think about what's coming 5, 7, 8 years down the line, which is another reason for this cohort.
So looking ahead, what would you consider a successful outcome from the GamePlan 2035 initiative, and how would you measure its impact?
That's a great question. And generally what I try to do, and I'm sure that folks at MVP are the same way, try to look at what is the end goal and then build backwards to make sure you get to that goal. I think for the cohort, having engaged administrators, either 5 or 8 from one campus, or 15 from a group of 3 or 4 campuses, if we can have administrators gathering every week, every month, if we can have them gathering to have conversation, and when we get to the end of an academic year, maybe after about 6 or 7 of these monthly check-ins and conversations, then I would call that a success. Once we get to a finish line in which we've had these people come together, we've had the action items developed, and they have a game plan, to me, that's a success.
Is it happening already? Are they beginning to come together and you're initiating that?
Yeah, the architecture is almost in place fully. It's taken a while, and it was probably 6 or 8 months ago when the idea first came about, and it's not something that you just stand up immediately. You know as well as anybody, you need a logo to go behind it so you can believe in it. You've got to go through a listening tour to make sure what you're thinking about is going to hit the right ears and strikes the right nerve. So we're almost there, another month or two, and I think by the time we get into our future, I think we'll be in a good spot.
What else do we need to know about your future plans and how this is going to help our state's economy?
I think we need to just keep supporting what we're supporting. There's so much noise out there that a fan, if you're a fan, you need to continue being a fan. If you have the ability not just to dip in every once in a while, if you got a chance to get to campus on a more regular basis, that's going to help so many of the upcoming ills, and it'll create a lot of solutions for a lot of people. But you got to commit. And again, there's so many things out there for people to be a part of. You just got to commit. But man, what a great environment once you're on the campus, right? I mean, campus life is great life.
Yeah, it's exciting. It brings people together.
It does. It gives you something to cheer for.
That's right. Well, we appreciate you coming today and explaining this to us and the continued impact of sports in our state.
Well, thank you for all that you guys do. This is a great service.
Thank you. We appreciate you watching today and hope you'll join us again. If you'd like to learn more about NC Insights and Innovators, please visit the website at the bottom of your screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.